I am to sort of to big pharma what Rumble kind of is to big tech. And in many ways I know this because I was an early investor in that one as well. So I believe in showing up. I didn't think I was going to enter the world of politics. I believe driving change through the market whenever possible. I've lived the American dream. I think that sometimes conservatives aren't as disciplined, I would say, and not even conservatives, but pro-American leaders who are unapologetic. You can't just have a backlash and then expect it to, some, T-shirt that you launch that lasts for 24 hours. Well, that's not how you build a lasting enterprise. But to actually have market leaders who are unafraid to stand for the core principles this country was built on. I mean, Elon Musk, who I've grown to respect immensely for what he's trying to do in the world of social media. It's going to take more of those leaders too, and that's what I've been doing. But I'm not going to be able to fully revive this country just as a businessman. After I saw the red wave that never came last year, you ask yourself why. As I said in the beginning, the Republican Party has just satisfied itself with criticizing the Biden agenda without offering a vision of our own. That's when I decided to step into this ring, and we're not going to stop till we get that job done. Thank you, man. I appreciate the question. We'll come right to you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to New Hampshire. I'm a local educator. I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher here in New Hampshire. And I just have a question on what is your plan to improve school safety for students, because I just feel like so many schools aren't equipped for that, and a lot of schools don't implement safety officers. So what is your opinion on how to improve school safety?
It's physical safety. Let's talk about that. I think 3 armed security guards in every public school and every school across this country. That's how you actually want to stop another school shooting and actually protect our children. People say that costs too much. Well, let's do the math. Less than 20% of the U.S. Department of Education's budget is actually what it would take to put 3 armed security guards in every school across this country. What does the U.S. Department of Education do that requires it to have such a large budget? Nothing helpful, I'll tell you that. They take $80 billion of our taxpayer money, and then they tell these local schools that you don't get that money unless you adopt these toxic racial and gender ideologies. In fact, I was at gun range earlier today. We had a good event up there. I was talking to one of the people. I think he was one of the co-owners of it, if I'm not mistaken. A guy who worked there, maybe. He said they're teaching archery. He's an archery coach. And I said, that's awesome. I actually, Apoorv and I enjoyed learning that as well a while ago. But there are schools in this country, in Oklahoma or other places, where if they're teaching practical skills, archery or hunting or otherwise included, the U.S. Department of Education will say you don't get that money. So they're spending $80 billion of our money foisting these radical agendas and saying to schools that you can't get that money if you're teaching other practical skills. Subsidize a 4-year college education without doing a thing for somebody who wants to enter a 1-year vocational program. I say take that money, give it back to parents across this country, let them choose where they send their kids to school. But for less than 20% of that, 3 armed security guards in every school across this country, it's not even close which one's a better use of money. And I want to say something as an 8th grade social studies teacher. I wish I could tell, maybe I should, my 8th grade social studies teacher, a message, but you're having an impact on those kids' lives today in ways that you probably may not fully even appreciate. I mean, I think back to many of those lessons dating back to 8th grade and earlier when I think about what shaped my views on this country and struck an early spark of national pride, probably before you even realize that you have it. Right? Young people don't value a country we just passively inherit. We value a country we have a stake in knowing something about. And so, whether it's this gentleman serving in the Army, whether it's you serving on the front lines of hopefully reviving some pride and having a mind for protecting that next generation of Americans, that's how we're going to get this country back. Actually, it's not going to be just some president coming from on high from the White House to save us. I'm going to play my role in this, I promise you that. But if we are going to be saved, it is going to be because we save ourselves. Every one of us doing your part, and I want to thank you for doing yours. I'm proud of you, and thank you for the question. It means a lot. Thank you.
What you said about school safety, that means a lot, especially as a student of Michigan State University who had to go through the worst of that last year. I just wanted to say that means a lot. But I wrote down a question. In a day and age, especially as a college student, our nation's divisiveness causes a lack of conversation between people of differing and opposing views. How do you propose that we as Americans in our everyday life can work to create some change and have productive conversations with people who have different views than us.
Great question, man. And the first step is showing up. I think that the beauty of this country is that you get to speak your mind openly as long as I get to in return. The path to truth runs through free speech and open debate. Period. I mean, that's what our founding fathers understood. Even just think about it practically in the last few years, right? Those who regret maybe having not locked down those schools or wishing that we hadn't. You think we would have locked down those schools if we'd been allowed to debate that in the open? I don't think so. You think we would have had to wait 3 years to know that that lab leak was the origin of the COVID pandemic? Not quite. If we had been allowed to say that in public. So free speech is the way forward in this country. But it's not just about the legal protections of free speech. It's about a culture of free speech, too. So one of the things I try to do is go to college campuses. We've been to New England College a couple of times. Plenty of people who disagree with me. The last time we had a protester outside. Should I tell you that story? He was playing the guitar, and he seemed like he was a good guitarist, but he was using that to make a lot of noise outside the event. And so I said, listen up. He's a young man who took the trouble of showing up. Not a bad guitarist. He has some points to make. I went outside and met him. Middle of the event, we invited him in. And we said, come on in. You get to ask a question, but here's the rule. You get to be heard, but then you stay the rest of the time and you hear what everybody else has to say, too. And he did. And I think that we actually discovered, I wouldn't say that we agreed on all the issues, even the one that he was asking me about, but I think that's how we get our country back. There was a student in the back of the classroom in an event we just did, a few days ago in Iowa, in Grinnell, and I think he was a college student, and he said, listen, I'm transgender, and I would appreciate you taking, what he said was a different position or more moderate position on some of the banning of genital mutilation and chemical castration in young people. We had a good open debate about it, but that's how we do this in this country, is you get to speak your mind as long as I get to in return, and part of respect means you don't change what you have to say. It means that you respect your neighbor enough to, as I said in the beginning, tell him what you actually think. And so that's what we're going to require in this country, is more of us willing to express ourselves openly. The president can lead by example. A lot of other candidates have said that I won't go on certain networks, because they're not favorable to conservatives, and I get that. I look at it the other way. Well, I'd rather show up on the other side's turf, bring the best arguments, and if necessary, win them without sparing. Don Lemon and I earlier had an exchange. I don't know if you remember that earlier this year. Well, I think it was productive to have that exchange even for their audience, to learn about it, even if that resulted in him, no longer being on the air, from him losing his mind as a consequence. And so all I would say is, we got to practice what we preach. And half that battle is showing up. We go to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington in the middle of the inner city of Philadelphia. Those aren't traditional places that GOP primary voters go. That's how we're going to win this election in a landslide, though. I don't really talk about Republicans versus Democrats. There's failures in both parties. I talk about whether or not you're part of this pro-American movement. And if you share those basic ideals, and the top of the list is free speech in this country, the way I look at it is we're on the same team. I appreciate that, man. Great question. Thank you. Thank you. Go back to you, sir.
Social Security.
Yes. The question speaks for itself. So how old are you, man?
21.
21. So it's relevant to your generation. Because your generation, if we head in the current track, is going to be the one that pays in and then gets nothing out. So everybody else, as I'm familiar with, or mostly everybody else, in the Republican Party is in the camp of, you have to deal with the national debt problem by cutting Social Security and Medicare. I think we're in the last possible window we're going to have as a country, these next few years, between now and the time that interest payments on our national debt become the largest line item on our federal budget, which is in the next few years. That's our last window to be able to get this right. To be able to say, we're going to deal with federal spending without having to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare. There's some basic ways to do it. $7 trillion owing to 2 wars that didn't advance the American interest. Don't repeat that same mistake over again in places like Ukraine or otherwise. Start with zero-based budgeting. Don't start with last year's budget as the baseline and then ask what's necessary. Start with 0 as that baseline, and then build that up from scratch. That's how we're going to get the essence of this country back. Drill, frack, buy down our national debt with the national assets, the gifts this country has been blessed with. Now, as it relates to Social Security, I'm going to throw you a provocative question. Hopefully it's one that you like. What if I told you there was a way not to talk about cutting Social Security benefits, but instead to have a conversation about increasing Social Security benefits, and that it would fight our national debt and our solvency problem in Social Security as well? But here's what it is. You learn from the past. And I'm a CEO. I think it's time we had a CEO in the White House. When the people who were collecting Social Security were your age, if we had started allowing that money to be invested in the same way that your financial advisor would tell you to invest it, in a broad basket of stocks and bonds and otherwise, somebody who's getting $1,800 a month in Social Security today would be getting $18,000 in Social Security monthly benefits today, and we'd still have a surplus. Well, we didn't do that. But it's not too late to start. And so for your generation, I think that allowing that to participate in the actual economic growth of this country, just invested in a broad, diversified portfolio, the same way that your financial advisor would tell you, the same way we should have done it 20 years ago, by the time you're in a position to collect what you've put in, it'll actually be, I believe, a lot greater than even what it is that the people are collecting today. So that's the holistic answer. We're in our last possible window to get this right. I think it takes a CEO in the White House who knows what the heck they're doing to actually see that through. And I'm confident, with some common sense, that's something we're going to be able to deliver. Thank you, man. I appreciate the question. Thank you. Right there, sir.
Hello, Vivek. Thank you for coming to town.
It's good to see you, man.
My name is Matt. I'm from Rochester. I had a question. Oh, I completely forgot.
That's allowed. Happens to me sometimes, too. I'll tell you, Rochester's where we started the campaign, actually.
The deep state.
I appreciate that.
The deep state. Donald Trump said he was going to lock her up. That was why I voted for him. And he didn't do it, and the swamp swallowed him up. How are you going to do it, and what is the penalty for the Faucis, the Clintons, the Bidens? Yes.
The fullest extent of the law. We need full accountability. And accountability under the law. Now, here's what happened. They duped him. Here's how they duped him. What they said was, you can't even fire a lot of those bureaucrats because of what they call civil service protections. So they told him, read the law. Those civil service protections only apply to individual employee firings. They do not apply to mass layoffs. Mass firings are absolutely what I am bringing to the DC bureaucracy and the deep state. That's what it's going to take. 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats by the end of my first term. I think we can get 50% of that done. I'm not kidding, on the first day, actually. Well, I mean, I gave a thought experiment. You know, here's one framework. I'm not saying it's exactly going to go like this, but it's got to be something like this. If your Social Security number ends in an odd number, you're out. If it's an even number, you're in on day one. Day two, the bureaucracy's half its size, and I guarantee you not a thing is going to break. It's going to exactly be just as good as it was, except, of course, you know, hopefully not as bad as it was, half the size on day one. So they told Trump you can't do that because they dupe somebody who does not fully understand the law and the Constitution themselves. And I give Trump credit for giving us a Supreme Court that agrees with me 6-3 on this. So are they going to sue me? Yes, they will. We'll take that to the Supreme Court and we're going to win. So the president who comes after me then won't have his hands tied in the same way. That's how you drive change on the time scale of history. And I'll tell you, that's how I think about it. It's not about me. It's about our country. It's about we the people. America first does not belong to one man. Doesn't belong to Trump. Doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. It belongs to us, to we the people. And so who's going to take that America First agenda now to the next level? It's going to take an outsider, someone coming from the outside, I believe from the next generation, but somebody who's willing to come in and break glass. That's part of what it's going to take. But the other half of what it's going to take is somebody who also has a deep understanding of the law and the Constitution in this country. Those two things don't usually go together, actually. Right? You got the law professor types who understand the Constitution but aren't going to actually be able to cut through the bureaucracy and forcefully see it through. You might have a good business guy, but who may not understand the Constitution, and I think there are limitations there too. That's what called me into this race, man. Each of us was put here for a purpose. I believe that, I'm a person of faith, I believe God put us here for a purpose, that He works through us. Each of us has to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, how am I going to make the best use of my God-given skills to drive the best possible change I can in this country as an American in the United States of America? And that's what pulled me into this race. I think it's going to take that leader with both those qualities and with fresh legs. I think that's something I bring to this, is coming from the next generation to reach the new generation. That's why I think we're going to be even more successful this time around. So I'm not going to sit here and bash Donald Trump. To the contrary, I give him immense credit for getting a lot of work done, including our Supreme Court, keeping us out of World War III and otherwise. He rolled over the log of the deep state. We saw what crawled out. Now I'm bringing the pesticide. That's how we get the job done. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. We'll come right up. Yeah, we'll go to this gentleman, then we'll go right behind you. All right. We'll come back up to you, man, after that.
The other day, me and my buddy, who was on the other side of the political spectrum, was talking about how money in politics is a big issue and how one person can affect a local to larger election by just donating more money than everyone else. So I was wondering, what would your solution be to this problem? And I'm sure you've thought of it thoroughly, and I'm very excited to hear your answer.
What's your name, man?
My name's Grant.
Grant. Well, first of all, I want to say something about what Grant just said in the question. I want to tie it back to your question, man. What was your name again? Andrew. Andrew's question. I love that you have friends on the other side of the political spectrum. That's great. That's America, right? We can disagree and still actually recognize that we're co-equal citizens and even be friends with each other. Now, you got to debate like hell with them, but in this particular case, I actually agree with them. I think the corrosive influence of mega money in politics has actually been the source of corruption in both political parties. So here's how we deal with this, all right? It's not that complicated. Some basic anti-corruption measures. You can't lobby the government after you leave the government. At least for 10 years after you left. That should not be controversial. If you're in Congress, you should not be trading individual stocks. Same thing if you're a bureaucrat regulating an industry. You should not be trading individual stocks. If you have been a regulator or a government official that's done deals with companies or regulates a company or an industry, you should not be able to join a board of a company in that industry right after you leave. You know what the former FDA commissioner is doing? Sitting on the board of Pfizer right now. Republican administration. You ought to know what, I mean, you know, I'm not in this to go after the other candidates. I'm running on this on my own terms, but there are other candidates, when they're governor, have done special deals with companies like Boeing. Immediately go join the board of Boeing right afterwards. It's wrong when the Democrats do it. It's wrong when the Republicans do it. The influence of mega money on politics is corrupt. So two principles here. One is, people should not profit from their time or connections in public service. That's not complicated. That's number one. And number two is, if we have actual limits to campaign contributions, which we do, there's $3,300 you can give in this primary. I think the system needs to be updated to say that, you know what, we actually adhere to those limits, rather than creating these monstrosities of the super PACs or otherwise. Most of the ads you guys see on TV here, or that show up in your mailboxes, don't even come from the campaigns. They come from super PACs. And so the left used to howl bloody murder about this before 2010, when Citizens United came down. You know, what they said is, you know what, George Soros, by the time Trump's elected, says, you know what, I can by the results. If that's the way you guys want to play, I'll beat you at your own game. That's what happened. And so even though this used to be a left-wing slogan in the pre-2008 era, I think Republicans should embrace it today to be the party that says we want to keep the corrosive influence of mega money out of politics. And if we own that message, I think that's part of how we win this election in a landslide, because you don't have to be red or blue or black or white to agree with that one. But here's the problem. Every politician now dances to the tune of their biggest donor.
Yeah.
I mean, they're circus monkeys, really.
Correct.
Everyone. It's like the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It's like a law of nature. In my case right now, that biggest donor is me. And our family's making immense sacrifices precisely because I don't want to be somebody else's pawn on a chessboard. So do I love that the system works that way, that it has to be somebody who has built multi-billion-dollar companies that has to come in and break the system? No, but that's the truth. That's where we are now. By the time I'm out in January 2033, it won't be the same broken game that it is today. So you guys put me in that office, I get that job done. And bring your friend with us. You know what I mean? You can come and join us too. I love that. Thank you.
My question would be on the Second Amendment. To me, the Second Amendment is an insurance policy against tyranny. I'll say that again. An insurance policy against tyranny.
Yep.
And I would like you to speak about that, please.
Well, you said it all. I mean, people think. I mean, I enjoyed going to the shooting range today. We posted a picture. I actually had a pretty good grouping today, but I don't want to brag about that. But I enjoyed that. But that's not what the Second Amendment's about, right? You can go hunting, you can go sport shooting. That's not what the Second Amendment protects. The Second Amendment is the one amendment that protects against all of the other ones. The first one you asked about is the most important. The First Amendment is the first most important amendment. That you get to freely practice your religion and freely speak your mind. The government cannot tell you what you can and cannot say. The Second Amendment is the second most important one because it's the one that protects the first. And it protects all the other ones. You asked about Iran. Funny thing about Iran, it's true about China too. They offer the same protections as our Bill of Rights on paper. Believe me, we have like 10 amendments in our Bill of Rights. Those countries have like hundreds. Hundreds of statements of all the rights they offer you, but they don't have the one that matters. There's no Second Amendment in those countries. I referenced my spat with Don Lemon earlier. Well, it was actually less of a spat and more of a discussion of U.S. history. It made his head explode, and there was a chemical reaction that went off. But actually, but the point at the heart of it was, black Americans in this country did not enjoy their freedoms, their other civil rights, until they were granted their Second Amendment rights. That's it. That's the first. You know this. What's your name?
Mark.
Mark, you know your history. The first gun control laws that were passed in this country were actually racist laws designed to keep guns out of the hands of black people. So this made Don Lemon's head explode. But I told him, no, let's study the history even earlier. The Dred Scott case, which said that black persons could not be citizens. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Taney, at the time, said the reason why was that if black people were citizens, that would allow them to own guns. So you call it an insurance policy. I like that. I'm gonna steal that line sometime. The way I've said it in the past is yours is cleaner than mine, but it's a similar idea.
I tried to boil it down to it's
Simple. People get it. It's mutually assured destruction is what I say. So we had that in the Cold War between the U.S. and the USSR. Well, this is mutually assured destruction between the citizens and the government. Between the governed and a government that only rules with the consent of the governed. That's what keeps government at bay. One of the things I've said even is, I think it'd be a disaster if China invades Taiwan in the foreseeable future, but one of the many things I think we can do, not the only thing, but one of the many things we can do is export the Second Amendment. It's an ideological export. Imagine if you put a gun in every Taiwanese household, train them how to use it. Xi Jinping is absolutely going to think twice before trying to invade that island. That's what the Second Amendment was all about. That's why we need to preserve it, and I will stand a hard line. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Go to the gentleman in the back right there.
Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. What's your name,
Thanks
brother?
for being. My name's Tom. Thanks
to
for
see you,
being
Tom.
here. Thanks for the beer.
Free speech, free drinks. And sometimes one helps the other.
So the liberals have weaponized everything they can against conservatives, right? They've weaponized government agencies, they've weaponized the mainstream media, they've weaponized social media.
Yep.
They're brainwashing people with TikTok. The next battlefield is artificial intelligence.
Oh, good.
You already see
Good.
it.
I'm glad you're asking about that.
So, and this isn't just a United States problem, this is a global problem.
Yep.
How are we going to fight that battle?
Yeah, so here's the thing. The number one danger from AI is actually not even from the AI. It's from the human response to the AI, actually. Think about that. So I'll give you an example of this. Anybody here a tennis fan at all, or yeah, watch something good? So my first job actually I ever got was as a ball boy. I used to run around chasing the balls, and I got an upgrade a few years later when I trained to be a line judge. So one of those human beings that call out, or not out. So those are now replaced. They don't exist anymore. The calls are made by AI. It doesn't take a picture of where the ball lands. It projects where the ball is going to land, but they say it's even more accurate than taking a picture of where the ball lands. The first generation of that technology wasn't very good. Like, you could see it with your eyes. It would totally get it wrong. But something funny happened. The players stopped arguing. Right? So it's interesting. And so now it's like the equivalent of that. You go to ChatGPT. You could just try it at home tonight. Type in, how do you address climate change? How do you address racial injustice? You get something back that sounds like it comes from the talking points of the Democratic Party, or you could turn on MSNBC on a given night. That's what ChatGPT will give you. But I wonder what the same response is. Is it going to be like the tennis players who no longer argue? Right? So I think one of the greatest risks of AI is the human response to that AI. So here's why I center my AI policy on this. First step is draw a hard barrier with children. Okay? Anything that is AI needs to be watermarked and labeled that it's using AI, and you have hard boundaries in the interface with children. If kids shouldn't be smoking addictive cigarettes and aren't by the age of 18, then they shouldn't be using AI-powered algorithmic social media or otherwise by a certain age, at least by the age of 16 either. So that's policy one. Policy two is we can't ban anything here that China itself is continuing to barrel forward with, right? Because that's just going to be the worst of all worlds. But instead, here's my approach is, I don't want the government getting in the way. Put the liability on the companies that are developing those protocols. So if you're a chemicals company, you can't go dump in somebody else's river. Fair enough, or else you're liable to be sued. Well, here you can't do the same thing metaphorically by dumping in somebody else's backyard with your algae. So if it has an adverse consequence that was not foreseen, and that's the key with AI, is it's iterative. You may not foresee all the consequences. Then you're still liable as Microsoft or whoever else for the wrong that was committed. That doesn't exist right now. So they only have an incentive to be in an arms race, but without taking into account what the liabilities are of what they're creating. But if the companies have to take into account on the front end that they have to actually internalize those risks and those costs, that's how you actually address this in a way that doesn't involve some central government bureaucracy deciding who the winners and losers are. And so, that's not a red meat Republican versus Democrat point. I think it's hopefully a thoughtful approach to how we can tackle a new challenge that's going to affect the next generation of Americans. And I think that's the kind of leader we're going to need tackling the issues of tomorrow. Right now we have literally the person in charge of AI policy, I'm not making this up, is Kamala Harris, actually. I'd rather have somebody who can spell AI in charge of it than somebody who's not. So that's a basic minimum for me. I appreciate that. Great question, thoughtful question. Thank you, man. We'll come right up here.
Hey, thanks. Hi, first I want to say I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, so thank you for representing. Thank you. So my question is, sorry. I lived in D.C. for about 8 years, and the corruption is deep within both parties. I've got buddies that work on the Hill to this day. My question is, number one, do you believe in term limits? And number two, if you do, how do you plan on navigating it when you've got politicians that have been there my entire life, and thus your entire life?
Yeah, I love that question. Well, thank you for coming over. There's your drink served up to you. You deserve it. You earned it with the good question.
I went to Arьye University.
That's good. That's good. She knew you were going to ask a good question. I like that. So let me say something about term limits. I'll say Three things about this. One is, I do believe in term limits. 2 terms for Senate, 3 terms for Congress. Number 2 is, I also believe in not making false promises. That will require a constitutional amendment. A constitutional amendment requires 75% of congressmen and senators to get on board. The very people we're talking about term limiting. So the joke, which actually just to open your eyes into politics a little bit, there'll be other Republican candidates who are super down the fairway of the establishment, but the one thing they feel comfortable saying is this term limits pledge, because they know it's never going to happen. It literally cannot happen. You could do it directly through the ballot, but the Constitution, there's only 2 methods of amending the Constitution. So our Founding Fathers created a loophole, but don't worry, I have good news for you. There's a 3rd point to this. That's point 1, point 2. I favor them. I can't promise you I'm going to do it because I don't make false promises. Number 3, here's what I will promise you will do. The real kind of term limit that we need in this country, the most important and urgent kind that I can deliver as your president, term limits for the bureaucracy. Right? So the people we elect to run the government, they are no longer the ones who actually run the government. It's the people who work in these 3-letter government agencies that are pulling the strings today.
Regulators.
The regulators. Guess what? There's one executive branch of government. Article 2 of the Constitution says so. If you all make me your president, I will lead that executive branch of the government. I've been an executive before. I know that if somebody works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It means you work for them because you're responsible for what they do without any authority to change it. So here's what I'll say. If I can't be your next president for more than 8 years, which I think is a good thing.
It is a very good thing.
It is a very good thing. Then neither should those federal bureaucrats reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. That's how you drain the swamp. And I think it takes somebody who understands that to see that through. And that's a promise that I can keep, and it's even more urgent. It's the most urgent kind of term limit we could bring to bear of all. Good question from a Cincinnati native. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take a couple more questions. I mean, I'm having fun. If you guys are having fun, we're going to go as late as you guys are down to.
Hi, Dave.
Good to see you, man. What's your name?
Dave Hagan.
Dave.
We hear a lot nowadays about the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab and his cast of characters. This is a very powerful organization with a global agenda.
Yep.
And their agenda is not conducive to our way of life.
That's right.
Do you see them as a potential threat to our freedom and civil liberties? And if so, what would you do to protect us from them?
So the answer is yes. And I want you guys to understand this. I'm not trying to boast or take credit for this. I was CEO of a large venture funded company. My first book was all about this, Woke Inc. And my 3rd book was in more detail about this because this is such an important topic that the first one wasn't enough. It was capitalist punishment. What they're doing is they're using the financial markets to do through the back door what government could not do through the front door. Using our own money, your retirement money, all of our retirement money, to be able to effectuate climate agendas or racial equity agendas in corporate America's boardrooms by voting for your shares that they couldn't get done through the legislative process. So that's the essence of what's going on. Now, I think I'm the only person that I know of in the United States that's actually brought a lawsuit against the World Economic Forum and won in getting everything that we went in there to get. I believe in putting them on their back foot. But any institution, from the WHO to even, I think UN is legitimate to talk about in this context. We should not be funding any international institutions that are hostile to U.S. sovereignty. We're giving tens of billions to these institutions today. I'm done with it, right? And some people say that's extreme, you know, that I would consider leaving the UN. I think the status quo is extreme. That you have a sovereign nation in the United States of America that has used our taxpayer money to cede that sovereignty to multilateral institutions. And I'm sorry, I'm not some global citizen fighting climate change. I'm a citizen of the United States of America. And I will be a citizen of this nation and not any other. That's what the World Economic Forum agenda is fundamentally hostile to. And to just go philosophical for a second, this is the vision of the Great Reset. What is this? What is the Great Reset? It calls for dissolving the boundaries between different spheres of our lives, between the public sector and the private sector, between the online world and the offline world. That's what the metaverse is about. The boundaries between nations. They call for the dissolution of boundaries. And I think the response to the Great Reset is what I see ourselves leading in this campaign. It is the great uprising that says hell no to that vision. That we are citizens of this nation, not any other one. See a little bit of that happen in Argentina. Javier Milei, for those of you who have been following international elections a little bit. So I think that this is transpartisan, transnational movement of citizens of nations saying absolutely not to the global governance. We're done with that, and that's the 1776 vision that the United States of America was founded on, and I will lead it and not stop till we revive it. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. We got two people right here. Are you guys together? Yes. Well, we'll go to you first. Thank you.
Hi. I was just curious because on every issue, I feel like we should just be killing the Democrats in all these elections. But we constantly lose to abortion. What can you or are you planning to do to solve that problem?
Yep, two quick answers on that. I mean, not because we can have a day-long discussion about it, but let's get to brass tacks, okay? This is not an issue for the federal government to legislate on. Leave it to the states and to the people. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution means something. If I swear an oath to the Constitution, I need to keep it. I'm pro-life. I'm actually strongly pro-life. You know, and other forums have talked about even some of the personal experiences we've had as a family that led to my renewed conviction in my view that I will stand for, but it should be decided by the states. That stops us from losing this presidential election over it. It's also the right thing of the Constitution. Now, the other thing is most people in this country share our pro-life instincts if we're able to stand for them in the right way. I'll give you the example that Clarence Thomas gave of a real case. Pregnant woman, she's assaulted. The unborn child dies as a result of that. You find me one person in this country who says that that criminal should not be liable for that death. I haven't found one yet. So that says it's not about life versus not. Do we make this about men's rights versus women's rights? Let it be about human rights. But then here I'm going to say, let's preach to our own tribe. How do we stand even more strongly for the pro-life position? Access to contraception, child care under reasonable conditions. Think about even adoption policies. And then one that I bring to the table that is, I'm surprised others haven't taken this up yet. A lot of times I offer ideas and then others, you know, seize on them, and I'm happy about that when other candidates do it. They haven't done it in this one yet, but I hope they do. Sexual responsibility for men, codified in the law. So if a woman brings a child to term, I think it should be at her option to make the man the principal caretaker of the baby. Right now it's the woman. Well, that turns us upside down and says we're all in this together. Right? It's not about men's rights versus women's rights. It's about human rights. That's how we stop this from being an issue that divides us to a breaking point. It does not have to remain a losing issue for the Republican Party as well. I'm sick of losing. It's not just abortion. It's a culture of failing to stand for something. We're not just running from something. We're running to something. It's going to take a leader from the outside with fresh legs to deliver that. That's why I'm in this. You put me in that job, we got a landslide coming in 2024. I appreciate that. We'll go to the gentleman right next to you. Okay.
Hello, my name's Eric. Thank you for coming to New Hampshire. I'd like to say you're definitely a breath of fresh air to the political party. I lived in Arizona for a little over 15 years, and I saw a lot of the illegals coming across. You know, that's 20-something years ago. It's very frustrating seeing our border not even having a border and nothing. Even the Texas governor, the Arizona governor, nothing. I mean, I know they're doing a little bit, but it just seems like nothing is happening. We're not stopping the fentanyl coming across. in the amount of the illegals that I come across this border, it's just sad to see that nobody's doing anything. Nothing.
Yeah. So I visited both borders actually in the last few months. I visited your northern border, north of Pittsburgh here. I'll tell you a funny story about that. You been up there? You know what I'm talking about then. There's the Customs and Border Patrol office with the barbed wire fence. Do not enter. And then right beneath that, I'm not even making this up, it says hiking trail this way. Seriously, so we went up and did the hiking trail. Goes in and out of Canada. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. So that's annoying. And then you look at the rest of it, it's wide open. So then there's that little creek nearby you soon after you cross the border. They call it a river. It's really a creek. About yay high, so let's give it a try, cross it. I mean, it was cold, but it wasn't that cold. And you're wide open, right? So that, and there's more border crossings, 12 times as many this year as in the average year for the last 12 years. More this year than the last 12 years combined. More fentanyl crossed the northern border. Enough to kill 3 million people, just last year alone. And that's not even touching the southern border. So the week after I went to Eagle Pass, Texas. And it's not like what you might imagine. You've been there before, Eagle Pass, by chance? Okay. And because you got to see it there to understand it. It's not like there's a bunch of people sneaking over the border and then U.S. Customs Border Patrol chasing them down to grab them and then send them back to Mexico. That's not it. And there's just too many and they're flooding them and getting past. Our own government is orchestrating the large-scale mass migration of illegal migrants into our country. I've never seen a larger-scale government-organized breakage of the rule of law than I had at our own southern border. So here's how we address this. And this is how I'm telling you the truth, right? I told the lady over here earlier, term limits, I'd love to stand for it, but here's the kind I can give you. Here's something I can get done as your next president, early, like in the first couple of months, and I will. And we already know exactly how to do it. I just need you to put me there to get this done. End any foreign aid to Central American countries until they've dealt with their part of the border crisis. The Darien Pass, that's number one. Number two, use our own military to protect our own borders instead of somebody else's border halfway around the world. That much I can do as the commander-in-chief. Number three, stop using our taxpayer money to fund sanctuary cities in this country, which are breaking the rule of law. And then number four, and here I go a little further than some, and then probably everybody else I think in our party, but I think it's necessary. End birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal migrants. It was never intended to apply to illegal migrants. And I can give you that, for those of you who are thinking, hey, is that a little bit, out there? Let me tell you. Well, thank you. I'm glad. It's just basic common sense to me. The kid of a Mexican diplomat born in this country does not enjoy birthright citizenship. Nobody thinks that's the case. Well, if the kid of a legal Mexican diplomat in this country does not enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal Mexican migrant who's in this country either. So that's what the Constitution says. And I'm going to stand for it. Common sense. A nation without borders is not a nation. And the people who are most harmed by it are the very people who are supposedly claiming to help, which is the people in inner cities across this country. Democrats have sold them down the river. We're going to bring them along and win this in a landslide. I was in a room like this one in the south side of Chicago. Looked a little different. Yeah. Closer to my shade of melanin than many of yours. It was a poor community, and they disagreed with me a lot. I've never been in a room more strongly in favor of my policy to put the military on the southern border than that room. Believe it or not. 95% black, 150% Democrat. And the interesting thing is, they're turning South Shore High School into an encampment for migrants. $7,000 per migrant per month is what it costs. So the people in that community are rightly asking, what the heck about me? And so our America First movement, this is bigger, I said it's bigger than one man. It's bigger than the Republican Party. This is about this is about a 1776 moment we live in. But this is our moment to stand for the ideals of the American Revolution. And I'll say this in closing. They're giving me this. I'll hang out, take pictures afterwards, but I think they're telling me to you know, our time is coming to an end on this portion of the evening. Here's what's going on in the country. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. I appreciate it. And there's a reason why the revivals, the revolutions, have generally been led by someone from the next generation. Thomas Jefferson, he was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence in this country. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it. I'm not making that up. That's Benjamin Franklin, he signed the Declaration of Independence, invented the Franklin stove, invented the bifocal spectacle, invented a remedy to the common cold. I mean, these are the guys who founded this nation. The pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid, the people who would not be stopped from realizing the maximum of their God-given potential without any government or any system standing in their way. That's the spirit we had in the United States of America. That's our inner animal. Our inner animal spirit, it has been domesticated, it has been tamed by this new culture that penalizes excellence and celebrates victimhood. Our culture of excellence, it has leapt oceans to lift up places like China, while their culture of victimhood has come all the way back here to hold us back. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we didn't just hunger for a single man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence in this country. That's what it means to be an American. That's what we need to revive. Right? Young people in this country, they're lost. It's not that they disagree with us. This is to the question earlier in the college campuses that I visited. It's not that they disagree with us. It's that they don't know what to think. The other side has sold them a siren song. We have to stand for our own vision. Our nation, we're hungry for purpose right now. We're hungry for meaning, for identity. At a time when faith, family, hard work, patriotism, these things have disappeared. This is our moment to fill that void with what it means to be an American. Yes. Still the country where no matter who you are, or where your parents came from, or what your skin color is, or how long your last name is, in some of our cases, that you get ahead in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what, you are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And listen up, New Hampshire, I'm telling you this. It's with your help. I'm here to ask you for your help. All right, a guy like me isn't supposed to do this. I've told you what I can get done as your next president. Everything we've talked about tonight, I can get that done as your next president without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. With the deep state, that's where this begins. When I leave office in January 2033, we'll tell you we shut down the deep state. We grew the economy. We stayed out of World War III. We declared independence from China. We revived national pride in this country. That much I can do. I couldn't do that for you if this primary were all held in the entire country at the exact same time, because then it would be decided by the super PACs. It'd be decided by the mega money in politics, the ads that you see all paid for by those monstrosities. But we can do this because New Hampshire goes first in the primary. We're going to keep it that way, by the way. It's going to stay that way on my watch. So I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you all to tell the difference between somebody who comes in here and reads your poll-tested slogans and somebody who's going to come in here and tell you what they actually think. You don't have to agree with 100% of what I've said tonight. You can agree with most of it. I will tell you back that I will tell you what I believe 100% of the time, always. That's the best we can ask of our politicians. So if you all come out in that third week of January, you go first for a reason. Every one of your voices in New Hampshire, it's like the power of 1 million people showing up and determining the outcome of this national election. I want you to think of that. That's why a guy like me can do this. I think that's a guy like me is going to do this. So with your help, if you all do your part, I promise you, my family, Apurva and I, and our entire family, we're going to do ours to make sure that our country's best days are, yes, still ahead of us. Thank you for coming out today. God bless you. God bless our country, our United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We got to close out with the USA. 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 Give it up for my brother in the Army here. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Possible way for the government to kind of circumvent or try to educate our public, especially the
Let's go.
Yeah.
Down to the wire, I saw my Young Boys and blew my mind. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy is different. I love everything he's about. 100%, like 100%. Then it's talking about Tucker Carlson. He's gonna get on Joe Rogan.
I saw that.
That's what everything. Okay. It's like he's talking to you. He's not just like going back.
Scoot back a bit. We're going to get it.
I will. Where you from? That was cool. You from New York? Kelsey?
Yeah.
You jump press.
Let's see.
Definitely.
The problem is that we keep it from like being supporters.
Absolutely.
Reach out anytime.
This is awesome. Nice to meet you, Kelsey.
Where are you from?
Next town over.
Next town over. Where's
Yeah.
that? Because of
So Exeter's right here, and then Greenland's right next door. You do? I'm familiar with this area. Oh, okay. Yeah.
we were there when Duckburg got the Greenland.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, Portsmouth's right down the street.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you surf?
Makes no sense. I would.
We have the best surfing around here.
You do, right on here.
Yeah, check this out. Like, this was last weekend. Well, as far as like East Coast.
So like, I
No, you-
love that. Yeah.
Yep.
Nope.
1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2.
I can zoom in on the pictures. Not yet.
A lot more people come to these games than they go to Northwest. I'm not used to this like home crowd. I just read that football team.
it all!